and you should see a page that looks like this. And so what you're looking for is this larger blue rectangle, and you can use what's called Start Your Research. It's a really good place to begin your research because it is going to search the library catalogs. It'll include books and things that we own in the building and also things that we own online. But it will also include other content like magazine articles, journal articles, newspaper articles, good things like that. And they're going to be from different subject areas. So it is a really good place to begin. So what you'll want to do is look for the search box. And one of the things that you will want to do before you start actually doing your research is to think about your topic and to generate some keywords. And I will have links to a video that kind of shows you how to do that. But pretty much the big thing to remember is anything that you type in the search box, it's going to scan either the text of the article, or if you're using Google, it's going to scan the text of the web page. And so you want to think carefully about the keywords that you're using, and you need to understand that you might have to change your keywords a little bit if you're not getting the right kind of results. You might need to add a term, you might need to remove a term. I'm also going to demonstrate what's called Boolean searching, and it's a way that you can combine your keywords to affect the results that you get in your result list. And I think it'll be more apparent in a moment when I start doing the example search, what I mean by that. But I'm going to go ahead and start by typing in a topic. So I'm going to do time management. And so if you leave it like this, it's going to search for those two words anywhere in the text of the article. And I'll give it a moment to pop up on the screen. But you'll see that we have a lot of results. We have a little more than 4 million. So to demonstrate some of the Boolean search techniques that I mentioned that will help you narrow down your results, what we can do just from the start is to add quotation marks around time management. That's actually a phrase. So if you put in quotation marks, it's going to look for those two words together instead of just, randomly anywhere on the page. I'm also going to add the word and that's also part of Boolean searching. That will tell the database, and by the way, you can use this in Google, but it's going to tell it to look for the phrase time management. And I'm going to add college students because that's really what I'm focusing on for my research today. And if you notice, I did put quotation marks there too. So that should search for that as a phrase. And if you notice, that did make a big drastic difference. We have about 3,000 results, which is a lot better than 4 million. There's a couple of other things that you can do as well. I'd like to get to maybe a few more results. So one of the things that you can do is you can type in part of a word and abbreviate it and then add an asterisk. And I'm going to do that with college students because I want to pick up anything that mentions, college student or college students. The thing about the databases is they're super literal. So if you spell a word a certain way, it's looking for that exact word. And depending on your topic, it might be helpful for you to just use the asterisk to type in part of the word so you get all the different spelling variations in your result list. So I'm going to do that really quickly and see what we get. It looks like it didn't really add too much more to my result list. We have a few more results, but it seems like it's a good place to start. And of course, we can go back and change our search terms if we're not finding what we want. But what I'm going to show you right now is how to narrow down your search results. Because right now we're looking at a bunch of different sources. They're coming from different places. The first thing in my list is a dissertation. We probably don't want to use that for our project. The second one is an academic journal. If you scroll down the list, you might even see other types of resources that will pop up, like newspaper articles and things like that. But if you want to zero in on a particular type of result, you can use the checkboxes on the left-hand side. And so they call them limiters. And the first one is full text. I really wanted to emphasize that because a lot of times you will find a really good citation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have the text of the article available. It could be that we don't have a subscription. It could be sometimes they will put the citation ahead of publishing an article, so it doesn't really exist yet. So to get around that and to save time and make this more efficient, you can go ahead and add that full text filter. And so it should change our result list a little bit. So it did go down a little bit, but you'll see that most of the results have a link to the article somewhere under the citation, like the second one that I'm looking at. Sometimes you'll get a choice between formats. They usually do PDF files, which are like scans of the page. You'll have like all the pictures, all the page numbers included, things like that. So you can use that if you'd like. See if I can get back to our result list, which is up here on the page. HTML, sometimes you'll have that. It's more like a transcript. So this is what it looks like. It's still the text of the article, but it doesn't have any of the diagrams or things like that. So what you can do from here is you can add some extra filters, because of course you might have some other requirements for your assignment, and so you don't want to waste your time finding things that don't really fit what you're looking for. So I'm going to show you the publication date next, because that is pretty important. Sometimes your topic, like you really would just want to see like the most recent articles on a given topic. So I'm going to change this so that we're only looking at articles that were published between 2012 and 2017. See if I can get that to pop up. So it did narrow it down a little bit. There's also, under material type, we have a lot of different types of results that are in our list. And so I just wanted to quickly explain a couple of them. This may be something that you'll need to know for later as well. But we do have a type of publication that we collect and that we have in academic libraries. They're called academic journals, and so they're a little bit different than your regular standard magazine. They usually focus on a particular academic topic, and usually when you're publishing in these types of journals, they are things like research and criticism. So generally it's publications by scholars for other scholars. So they're very appropriate to use when you're doing research, and you might even be required to use them. They have an extra level of vetting as well. So before you can publish an article in one of these journals, you actually have to submit your article to a panel of experts, and they look at it and make sure that it's correct and that it is good, and then they'll publish it. So it's like a little extra layer of vetting, so that you'll understand and know that it's considered more credible. So anyway, if you wanted to just stick with those, you could just click on the academic journals filter, and it should filter out everything else. So these are all coming from academic journals. I wanted to show you really, really quickly, since it looks like we have a pretty good set, and so at this point I would probably go in and start actually looking at the articles and seeing if they fit my particular topic. But there's a lot of really good features that the database has to help you when you're doing your research to be more efficient. And so I did want to point out that if you find a really good set of results and start your research, you can actually bookmark this exact page. If you look on the upper right-hand corner, there's a persistent link. So you can take this and copy and paste it and bookmark it, or if you wanted to send it to someone, it will take you to this exact page. If you are off campus, which might be pretty likely, what will happen is it does have a special part of the URL to get you to the library's resources. Because if you tried to search for this just on Google, it's not going to recognize you as being part of our subscription. So what will happen is when you click on this link, if you're off campus, it's going to prompt you to log in with your NetID, but then you should be able to get to this page and access all the text if you need to. So there's that. Also, if you click on the title, they do a permanent link for each individual article, or at least the citation that we're looking at. So if you look over on the right, there's also like a print button, there's an email button, so if you'd rather email this to yourself, you can save this to your computer. The permalink is right here, so if you wanted to post this, or like if you needed to communicate with your professor and say, hey, is this going to work, you can send them this link, and they'll get you directly to this page. There's also a citation button. I'm just going to mention that just offhand. It's not always reliable, but it will show you examples of how you might cite. And so I would definitely, if you're going to use this particular feature, to double check. We have copies of MLA and APA handbook at the library. There's also links from the Writing Center and Slack, so you want to make sure that the citation is correct for sure before you put it in your paper. But just kind of let you know that that does exist. So, but pretty much when you're doing your research and start your research, you'll just be basically doing different combinations of keywords till you get to the articles that you feel like would work for your topic. And at any point, if you're ever stuck or if you have a question, you're always welcome to ask a librarian. You can contact me personally. Let me show you really quickly how to get to help. So I'm going to scroll up. And I think what I might do here is I'm going to go ahead and move off of the Start Your Research page and just go back to the library page. Though if you notice at the top, there is a link to Ask a Librarian. That's pretty much like the label that we have for our help service. And if you click on it, you get to this particular page. So there's a chat. There's usually somebody logged into chat during the week from 9 in the morning to 8 in the evening during the fall and spring semesters. So you're welcome to ask a question. We have an email system. So if it's after hours, and that would be in the middle of the night, you can send us an email question. There's also a phone number. If you'd rather call, you'll actually get to a person. There's also a text system, so if you'd rather text us a question. I did want to mention, though, that we do something called a research consultation. These are really, really helpful because sometimes you might need like an hour to an hour and a half to sit down with a librarian and get personalized help. And so the way to set that up is to click on this request a research consultation, and you'll put in your name and your contact information. You can actually choose a librarian. So what I would suggest would be you can go ahead and request me if you'd like. My name is on the list. If you'd like to do that, what I can do is if you happen to be on campus, I'm happy to meet with you either in the library or in a different campus building. You can specify that when you're setting up the consultation. Also, if you need to, if you are away from campus or in a different town, I'm perfectly happy to meet you on Skype or by phone, so you can also specify that on the form. In a moment, I'm going to pull up a page so you can see my own personal contact information, but that will also be on the track site as well. So if you want to just contact me directly, that would be great as well. So let me go back to the library homepage, and I did want to just show you again really quickly, if you happen to be on this page, the Ask a Librarian page is right there. Let me go back again just to show you, but it's in this nav bar, which is under the maroon logo. So there's that. I did also want to really, really quickly just mention searching on the web. And so this is a little bit different than searching in the library resources, because generally when you're looking in the library resources, it's stuff that's been vetted and curated. It's things that are actually published. So, and it's usually things that we've collected because they are scholarly and valuable and credible, and they're related to what people are studying. Of course, when you go on the web, it's quite different because anybody can post anything on the internet. So you have to exercise some caution. And I'm just going to regular Google. I was going to mention there is a scholarly version of Google that will oftentimes have links to articles that are in our databases, and there's a way that you can set that up, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But just as kind of like a quick rule of thumb, when you're looking on Google, you'll want to be sure to evaluate the web sources that you see pop up. There's actually a really silly acronym for a tool that you can use to do this. It's called the CRAAP test. It's CRAAP. And if you Google this, I promise nothing terrible will show up. You'll probably see a lot of links to different library pages, but I'm going to pull one up so you can see. And really, it's just an acronym for 5 different things that you're going to be looking at when you're examining a web page to see if it's credible and worth using as a source. So you definitely want to make sure that the content is current. I mean, you might find a web page from like 1995 and it's probably going to be outdated and look terrible. But there's also relevance. You want to definitely find information that is relevant to your topic. Authority is kind of a big thing. As I said before, anybody can put anything up on the web, and so when you're examining the web page, it's really helpful to look at where the information is coming from. You know, is this person like a professor? Are they a politician? Or are they just like a student writing like a research paper and they're 12 years old? So you want to analyze that before you decide to use that particular piece of information and make sure that you're comfortable with, you know, do these people know what they're talking about? There's also accuracy, which is a big thing. We all know about fake news and spoof sites and things like that. So you definitely want to make sure that this information that you're looking at is actually correct and true and truthful. And then purpose, that's another thing that it's kind of similar to authority and accuracy, but you just have to be aware that sometimes people will put up information on the web because they're trying to fulfill a certain purpose. So sometimes they're trying to sell you something. Other times they're just trying to inform you. But it's really helpful when you're making the decision whether to use a particular website. You know, what is it that they're trying to accomplish by putting this information on the web page? So now that you've kind of gone through the CRAP test, we can go to regular Google. And I think I'll stick with what we were doing earlier, which was time management and college students. And again, you can use all your Boolean search symbols and terms in Google as well. It just makes things go faster. Let's see, okay, if I can spell this correctly. Much better, okay. So one of the other things that is in the CRAP test that I didn't mention is you can also do kind of like a little bit of vetting just by analyzing the domain of the website. And just in case you're not really familiar, if you're looking at .com, it's usually like a business website. .edu is usually originating from some sort of school or university. .org is usually like an organization of some form. .gov, of course, is like the US government site. So if you find like a government page, that's usually pretty credible, depending. But that's just kind of like another thing that you can do when you're scanning your initial result list to kind of see, okay, what is worth looking at. Like it looks like on my particular list here, the first one is coming from a university. And if I click on the site, it looks like this is actually like a tutoring service. So, you know, it looks like it's coming from an office for students. So I would feel comfortable myself. Of course, you can always check with your professor to make sure that the web page is actually okay to use. And I would recommend that because sometimes, you know, it might be iffy. But it's interesting because it looks like the second one is from a blog, it seems like. It's got a person's name. I would probably snoop around a little bit and see who this person is and what she does, you know, what exactly this page is. Let's see if I can find another one. So there are a lot of different things to look at. And again, I would just recommend using the CRAP test and also, you know, asking your librarian or your professor. I did want to show you Google Scholar. And let me show you that really quickly. I'm just going to Google it. So this is Google Scholar. It's going to look a little bit different. I'll do the same. Let's see, management. And college students. So when you click on this, I'm actually on campus right now. So generally, if you're on campus and you're using Google Scholar, it's going to recognize you as being part of the library subscriptions because it kind of works on the domain pretty much. So you'll see that some of the citations actually say find it at Texas State. If you click on that, it should take you directly to the article, usually in a database. You might have to click a couple of times, but Here's the text right here. It's actually in a different database called Psych Articles, and you can, of course, print it out and do what you need to do. Let me go back a couple of screens. Some of them don't necessarily have that, so there's a way that you can check to see if we have a particular, article by looking it up by the name of the journal. You can also, of course, looks like they have, anytime you can do like the date range in here as well. But just kind of in general, it's mostly going to be items that are coming from scholarly domains. So a lot of it's going to be either like books or scholarly journal articles, or they might even be papers that professors published on their site or something like that. But I did want to show you though, if you happen to be off campus, it's not going to look exactly the same. There's a way that you can set it up though that it will connect to our resources. Let me show you how to do that. If you go to the library page and you go to the smaller blue rectangle on the library page, you're going to click where it says research databases. And this is actually a list of all the different databases that we have. And you'll see that Google Scholar is listed as a database. If you click on this, it's going to automatically connect you to our domain. So you should be able to see that Find It at TX State, even if you're off campus, if you go to Google Scholar from the link on the library page. So again, if you have any questions about this, I know this is a lot of information. You can always ask a librarian, send me an email. We can help you do that. But just so you know, and actually it's interesting because it looks like we have a chat like right on this page. So technically you could probably ask a question right here. Let me go really quickly to the home page. And I'm definitely going to put a link on Tracks so you can get to this page directly, but there's a library guide page. I'm actually going to also do a guide page for your class as well, so it'll be linked on Tracks. But my name is Lorin Flotis, by the way, so I'm just typing in my name. Let me pull this up really quickly. This is my profile page. It has a horrible picture of me, but I'm not on chat right this moment because I'm here talking with you all, but generally when I'm in my office, I'm logged into chat as well. So if you see that the chat box is open, you can always ask me a question. It's got my email, so if you want to send me an email instead, or if you'd rather call me, it does have my office number too, and it does have some links to social media. So if you'd rather send me a tweet, you can do that too. But just to kind of let you know. And I'm trying to think if you have any questions, you can always, of course, contact me. But I think this is pretty much like the how-to find resources, just kind of like a quick how to do this, kind of basic. So again, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to contact me. So thank you very much. I hope you found this helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all online.